We just had a prime minister who was a classicist, and I'm sure, like me, he would have admired the Odyssey. And if you open the Odyssey, the first words you get are Andrami ennepe musa. Sing to me, muse, of the polytropon, the complicated, um, uh, even the word complicated in Latin comes from a word to fold. In Greek, I suppose, in modern Greek today, people would talk about people being complexiko. And later on in the book, Odysseus himself is described as pantoi osi, zoloisi, all deceitful and cunning. And this is admired. Nestor is describing Odysseus and saying, he's your father. Pater theos. The Greeks admired cunning, and it was cunning that got Odysseus out of the clutches of the Cyclops. You remember where he stands and says, I'm no one. Nemo, little Nemo. Little Nemo. And the Cyclops says, no one's hurt me, so why are you crying then? Hilarious joke. One of the first great jokes in literature. And all literature, anyway, bounces from joke to joke. There's a smile on the face of the writer. And often we look at literature in a rather po-faced way, and we fail to get the humour. There's humour everywhere, in the Odyssey, in the Iliad, in the Bible, in Shakespeare, of course, in Milton. And when I first went to Greece, I was surprised by the lies, by the fiddling with payment, which went on endlessly. But when you see it in the context of the Odyssey and the Iliad, and the praise for complexity, the praise for cunning, it's very difficult to be really angry, even when you've not been paid properly. And in my experience, when I went on to teach in a Russian university, when I went on to deal with Russians in Moscow, I found that they simply did it even more shamelessly. I don't want to make a sort of xenophobic comment, but there is a passion for deception and an admiration for deception, and I think it comes from the Greek origins of the Russian language. The Russian script was developed by two Greeks, Kirill and Methodios, hence Cyrillic. And I certainly would not have survived in Russia for any length of time had I not been primed well in Greece. I can remember many an occasion when I did a job and I simply wasn't paid, or somebody sort of vexatious litigation. Somebody accused me of not paying them, and thought that was great fun. I remember there was a fat man. I can't remember his name now, but he wanted a translation. He wanted a book translating, and he gave it to me. I translated it. He wanted a second book translating. He gave it to a friend of mine, and called this a test. He actually published the translations, and we both asked for payment. We both asked for the payment we'd been offered. Neither of us got it, and I foolishly sent someone round to his house to demand it. And the next thing I knew, he had threatened me with arrest for hectoring him. Of course, I was right. I never got the money. And And I did have some slightly dodgy telephone calls from the police. Happily, I knew the chief of police. But I never got paid. I never got paid. And this man, we used to imitate him. In the end, I thought that was the way. That was the way forward. We mocked him. So my mocking of Matt Hancock is nothing new. Matt Hancock doesn't owe me money, by the way. But yes, the same thing is true. In the last week, I found that the two two companies I was working for, both Russian or Russian sourced, had not paid me. One was actually from Azerbaijan, and one was ultimately Russian, I suppose. But dealing with people in the south of France, and you just think after a while, this is how they behave. They think it's cunning. I think it's deceitful. It's a game. And I think we're playing this too. I think we have learnt. And yeah, I can shrug and smile when it's Greeks and Russians doing it, because it's part of a literary culture. You can find it not only in the Odyssey, you can find it in Niko Kazantzakis' book Zorba. And in the end, everything falls to pieces and you dance. When it's done in Britain, it just looks squalid. And it takes a prince of the royal blood to stand up in court and call it out. Squalid. It's not admirable. It's not polytropon. It's not complicated. It's just simple greed and simple deceit. There's nothing special about it. And I think we have to start calling this out. We've not been misled by people with a long history of playing games. We've been misled by greed and stupidity. And we think we can get away with it by playing games in a law court. We can't. We can't. I find it extraordinary. The other day, I finally got paid by a school I'd been working for. Finally, after almost a year. And you think, what is the point? You keep asking and asking and asking, and in the end you feel embarrassed. This isn't the British way of going about things. This is the Greek way, or the Russian way. And there, as I say, there's a history. For us to behave like this is just cheap. And I think we need to change. We need to change back to the honourable ways of behaving that we had in the past. We need to find them again, because that is us, and this is not us. People who don't pay their debts, people who cheat. The word cheat has got none of the fun of polytropon. Many angled, many turns, many shapes. The old man of the sea. None of that. Cheat is just a cheat. It's a liar. It's a fiddle. And there's nothing to be proud of. And I think Boris and Sunak and the people in government, and particularly Suella Braverman, who thinks that she can play around with words and that that's going to win her time. It's not. in the end, when it comes to English, there is only one word, and that is cheat. Actually, there's two words, cheat and liar, and neither of them is attractive. If she wants to play these games, she should go to Greece, or she should go to Russia, where there is at least a history and a dignity in cunning.